Leadership isn't just about title or positions. It's about breaking barriers. It's about embracing transformation and creating a legacy that lasts. It's about how do you lead with heart and passion. I'm Dr. Shernette Grant, but you can call me Dr. G. I help bold, visionary leaders turn challenges into powerful, everyday opportunities for growth. Are you ready to lead differently? Watch this episode now and be sure to subscribe and share Leadership Plus with Dr. G, available on all of your favorite streaming platforms. Let's lead differently and thrive together. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Leadership Plus with Dr. G. This is a podcast where we keep it real about what it takes to lead, grow, and inspire others to be their absolute best. And I get to be your host. Thank you for joining me. Of course, I would be remiss if I did not remind you to go back and check out all the other previous episodes. Make sure you like, subscribe, and most importantly, I ask that you share with somebody in your network and somebody you know that can benefit from these insights. All right, with that said, today we have a very special guest with us. And in a minute, I'm gonna have her introduce herself and talk all about her amazingness. But I am here today with Miss Winsome Brown, and she is the CEO and founder of
Lean on D Senior Home Care Services.
Lean on D, right? D-E-E, because for a moment I thought it was D, Lean on D, right? But I'm sure you're still leaning on D though, right?
Exactly.
So Lean on D Home Care Services. So Miss Brown, Miss Winsome, thank you for joining me.
You're
it is
welcome.
Such a pleasure to be having this conversation with you today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. Been listening to your podcast and you are absolutely amazing. So I am here to share and tell my story regarding starting a business, at all the highs and lows, because there are going to be lows and, of course, there are going to be highs. But when you start out, normally there are lows. So my story, I started my business in 2019. I was a corporate accountant for 20 years. I worked for a company that focused on SEC filing.
Okay.
And my last 5 years there were absolutely horrible. Every year we got a new CFO. So if there's a new CFO, that means there was a new initiative coming through.
We know that story also well, don't we?
Oh my goodness.
Yes, we do.
And I found myself one day driving to work, and I would drive into Silver Spring, and I had to pull over because I felt like I was having a heart attack.
Wow.
Because the stress, the uncertainty, you just didn't know, one day to the next, am I going to have a job? Am I going to do something to offend somebody? Am I going to, there was just so much. And, so that day I drove in and they came to my office and they offered me a buyout and I took it. I said, well, if this is meant to be, it's meant to be. So took the buyout and I really wanted to leave. And I was, people, we know when it's time, but, we hold on. But God says, guess what? Time for you to go.
Amen.
And when he says that, even if you're still holding on, he's going to find a way to get you out.
Are you all listening?
He finds a way. So I left and I wanted to start a business and I didn't know what I wanted to do. And my sister, the person that the business is actually named after, Dee, she was a hospice nurse. And she said to me, we're always seeing people at the end of life. We can make a difference before they get to that stage.
Wow.
And, and I said to her, Danielle, I don't know about this. I don't know anything about healthcare. I don't know anything about, taking care of people. I'm not sure if this was for me. And she did something that night and she's called it life number. And I didn't understand. I'm like, Danielle, you're always into these woo-woo foolishness stuff. I don't believe in any of this stuff. And when she read my life number, the life number basically said I was a nurturer, I care for people and all of this. But in my career path was nothing like that. My career path was, numbers. I don't know anything about health, people, dementia, nothing. The only thing I knew for my adult career was accounting. And I did that because my mom actually pushed me into that field. And it's a great field, don't get me wrong, but for my personality, I have a very big personality. I love to talk, I love to be with people, and accounting wasn't it. I felt like my voice was being stifled. I felt like I always felt out of place. I'm very happy that I know accounting and have a CPA, and I'm very grateful for that, because that has helped me to run my current business right now. So definitely always get an education, get a master's if you can, so you understand business, because yes, you can have a great idea, but you need to know how to execute. You need to know your numbers at all times. At all times, sitting down, I can tell you exactly how much money I have in the bank. Because if your money ain't right, your business is not going to go right.
That's what I'm talking about.
We have to know our numbers, and we should never get intimidated by it. So that was one of the best things my mother has ever done for me, is to push me into becoming an accountant. But I realized that accounting was not for me. Doing the life numbers with Danielle, I realized that I should be out there nurturing and caring for people. And so that's basically how the business started in a nutshell. I mean, there was a lot more things to it, because September 2019, I had to get the business incorporated. I had to do a lot of things. I ended up, before we started the actual business that we're currently doing, we were doing placement in assisted living, because I had said to myself, I didn't want to have staff. And what I realized now that I have this current business, I love my staff. I absolutely, positively love my staff. But, again, when you have staff and you're not driving the ship, it makes it difficult for you. Now the buck stops here. If I make a decision, I make the decisions. In corporate America, when I was making the decisions were never mine. The decisions were always from somebody else. And even if you don't agree with them, you still had to push them. And that was one of the biggest things. And I felt like I was selling my soul, because I would ask my team to do things that I know full well was impossible. We had impossible deadlines, and we would push. Now I set the deadlines for my team, for my in-office ladies. I set the deadline. I know what's reasonable. For my caregivers out in the field, I'm out there in the field with them, so I know, can they do this? Can they do that? You have to know what your team is doing and how to do it.
So you have had, first of all, thank you for sharing. People, what's that with me more than anything else? What you say? You have to know your money? Or
yes.
Go ahead.
You gotta know your money. I don't even know.
You gotta know your money, right?
Yeah.
With all of that, and we joke about the money, right? But Winsome, and just based on where you are right now and where you started, and something you just said a while ago resonated with me. You know every aspect of the business, because one, you've had to do it, right? You're out there, and even now, you're out there in the field with your staff. And in fact, ladies and gentlemen, one of the reasons why I met Winsome a couple months ago, and when she told me her story, one, it was an inspiration. Two, I was just blown away by just how much she has accomplished and how she took a particularly bad situation and she turned it into good for herself, her family, right? And is building this empire of, right, lean on D, okay? I like to say lean on V, but I want to give homage to her sister. So we talked, and I was just so impressed and blown away. Then we had another conversation, and she was sharing with me about, and I want you to tell the story, because even in the space you're in right now, your style of leadership, you're very inclusive. I called you yesterday, and you're fussing at your people because they're bothering you, and they're just barging in, because that's the kind of relationship she has with her staff. So, and I could hear the love in how the conversations went. But the moment I knew I had to have her on was when you were telling me the story of one of your staff members who was on a job. We won't go into the details, right? Because I know you have to respect privacy. And her car broke down or something.
Yeah.
Tell the people what you did in that moment.
We had a situation where one of my ladies, her car broke down. And first of all, have to give you a little bit of it. The gentleman was angry. The client was angry that the car was on the property. So I'm from Jamaica, guys. So to me, a stall car is not a problem.
It's a regular thing.
Exactly. You put the car in neutral and you push the car.
It's a regular thing.
So that is what we did. I went there, we pushed the car off the gentleman's property, and I sat with her and waited with her until roadside assistance came, because I didn't want her to be there alone, because we support each other. This is lean on D. We lean on each other no matter what. So those are just some of the relations. This is just like those are just small things in what we do for our staff. We do Mother's Day gifts. Like right now, as a matter of fact, last week we were deciding what we were doing for Mother's Day. So it was kind of like a little team effort in the office. Hey guys, what are we giving this year? So they're getting Mother's Day baskets. We have 401k, we have medical, dental, so they have Christmas bonuses. So because for me, this business itself, this home care agency business, is built on the backs of Black women. And I say to myself, I have been in corporate America and underpaid people. They pay all these people so much more than you. And I said to myself, whenever I have a business, I want to make sure that everybody is getting paid a fair wage, and I want them to have a livable wage. So not only a fair wage, but a livable wage, and have things they can take, go take their kids to the doctor. They can have extra money at Christmas time. When it's Christmas, I remember one year was Christmas and my mom just came to America and we had absolutely nothing. And she was working, and it's Christmas time. You think they would even give you a little $50, a little, nothing. My girls at Christmas, they get up to $1,000 because again, they have kids. Things are expensive, and I have 90 caregivers. So if we can do it and be profitable, anybody can do it. Any single person can do it, and your workers will stay with you. They will stay. They're not going to go anywhere. You treat people well, they will stay. So that is my...
Can you hear all of the values coming out in your messaging, right? I don't have to go look at your vision statement, your value board, or anything to really understand what kind of leader you are, Winsome, right? And we talk about one, leading by example. We talk about one, being very transparent and open with your staff, right? So that's why they can come in and they can share their woes, and you can go help them push car and make sure that she gets home safe, right? It's you making sure that you're in touch with what's happening with them outside of the office, because that also impacts the work.
Of course.
And I'm so glad you mentioned, because folks may be listening and they might be thinking, you're running a mini operation here. You have 90 caregivers.
Yes.
90 caregivers. You've been in business about 4 or 5 years? 4 years?
4 years.
4 years, right? So your business has grown exponentially in a very short time.
Yes.
And besides the fact that I can tell you grind, you work, it's what you do.
Yeah.
Talk to us about, and you mentioned it a little bit, because one of the things that we try to help people understand is that one, when the door closes, it just means that another is about to open, right? Or sometimes when the window closes, is that door about to open? Or if the door and the window close, the rooftop is about to blow off, right? That's how me look on it, right? See the Jamaican in us
exactly.
Coming, the rooftop is about to blow off. But I know that there had to be some challenges, because as small, at the time, you think about yourself as a small business owner, you're trying to be CFO. And you mentioned, thanks to mommy who pushed you into CFO, into finance and all of that. So you came with that expertise. But you were CEO, you were CFO, you were CIT, you were every single suite. You by yourself was the C-suite.
Exactly.
Right? It was Winsome, the C-suite. I know that had to be challenging. And even now, as you're working through some of, you're continuing to grow your business, talk to us about some of the challenges you faced as a leader and as a business owner, trying to wear all of those hats, right? Because sometimes, it doesn't even mean you have to have full-time staff in there, because you can always meet those needs through, consultation or part-time, fractionals in terms of positions. Talk to us about some of the challenges you faced.
Oh my goodness.
And how you overcame some of those.
So, there were so many. But yeah, so the first thing was really just trying to figure out basic. who am I selling my services to? And it sounds simple because the business is Lean on D Senior Home Care. So that means you think you would be selling the services to seniors. You are not. You are selling the services to the adult child, not the senior themselves.
Are y'all listening?
So that was one of the things I had to figure out. So I had to figure out who my target audience was, point one. After I figured that out, now is okay, how am I going to get a client? So how I got clients, I actually did a lot of things for free initially. So initially when I started the business, we're doing something called dementia home visit. And I love, anytime I'm doing anything, I research things to death. So I took some courses with Hopkins on dementia. I also became the community educator for the Alzheimer's Association. Then I would give presentations at churches to educate people about dementia. So guys, when you're starting a business, right, you're not just opening the doors and people are going to come. You have to build credibility. So the first thing I did was build credibility in the community. I also did Mother's Day baskets to the churches. So all of this, I'm putting out money, have not gotten one client yet. My first year in business, I was negative $26,000. So there was no profit, negative $26,000. My husband said, babe, this is a very expensive hobby. So,
and the IRS might have thought so too.
Exactly. So that's the first thing. In the first year in business, you're not gonna make any money. You're not. You're just not, because you have to put out so much in order to get the business going. So, and my husband has the best analogy. It's like a plane taking off. You guys ever sit on a plane and you see how much energy the plane has to use to take off, and it ramp up and it ramp up and it ramp up, and then it finally starts going up. So that is what, so that, and I would walk with my husband because I'm so like, babe, I think I made a mistake. And there was like a lot of self-doubt, lots and lots of fear and self-doubt. Lord God, what did I do? Why, maybe we should go get a job. This, oh God, why? Every day walking with my husband, babe, what do you think? And of course he's like, yeah, babe, you're gonna be fine. We're gonna be fine. We're gonna be fine. And lots of sacrifices in our family, lots of cutting back, lots of not eating out, lots of just trying to make, as opposed to buying pizza, we're making pizza. There was a lot of sacrifices when we just started. So there's just so many things that, but I never gave up because I knew I did not want to go back into corporate America. So I said, you know what? By the hook or the crook, I'm going to get this thing to work. For those of you
who don't know what that means, that means at any cost, no matter what I have to do to make this work. So in Jamaica, we say by the hook or the crook, they're going to make it happen. And that was your decision.
Yeah,
and you kept at it. There consistency.
Oh, of course.
Stick-to-itiveness.
Definitely. And a lot of even just getting the license with the state of Maryland. If you go on the state of Maryland website, it'll tell you it takes 6 months to get this type of license. It took a year and a half. And it took a year and a half with me calling them, following up with them so this is how I am too. And anytime and you want to be an entrepreneur, you gotta have grit. You gotta be that annoying person. So I submitted, or I had a consulting firm. I had a consulting firm work on my policies and procedures. They submitted it. So one day submitted it. I called the state. Hi, my name is Winsome Brown. They sent Bible policies. Did you get them? Yes, Miss Brown, we got them. In 30 days, you'll get a letter saying that we got them. Okay, so the 30 days, I didn't get the letter. Hi, this is Winsome Brown. It's been 30 days. I haven't gotten the letter.
Persistence.
So those are the things. And then when they finally start reading your policy, they're going to come back to you and say, well, in our case anyway, they come back and they say, this needs to be changed. This needs to be changed. So you have to quickly change them. So you have to follow up. Being an entrepreneur, there's no like, sure, I'll get to that tomorrow. Because guess what? That might be that you procrastinating and putting things off that can cause issues and delays. And when you have your business up and running and somebody call you, even if it's 5 o'clock, you still have to answer the phone. That could be for us in our case, that could be that's a client you might not answer the phones for. So you have to change that mentality, that worker mentality, and start thinking about our owner mentality. It's two different ways of thinking.
Yes.
So
there's a joke that comes across social media sometimes that I've seen. I'm sure many of you have probably seen it, and it says something to the effect of, I was tired of working 8 hours. So I quit my job and decided I was going to be a self-employed entrepreneur, and now I work 24 hours,
yes.
right? Now, this is real talk. We're talking real talk, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And real talk, and because you've been there. And what I love about, and Winsome's story is similar to a lot of people's. There are others who have done, kind of gone through the same journey, but they don't talk about it. You see them and it looks glamorous, and, people see them doing them thing, and they think that they got to where they got to overnight and they didn't have to put the work in. It's not a glamorous place to be, but the rewards, I'm sure, are there.
The rewards are there. The rewards are amazing, absolutely amazing. I just the financial security of my family. Never in my life have I been in a situation where I don't have to even think about money, and that is the greatest feeling ever. I can go into any store and buy anything I want without having to say, I wonder how much money I have in my bank.
Real talk.
So I don't, because I've been that broke person where you're like, then run the card. I said, but wait, the card go come.
You wonder if it's going to decline or not.
So I don't ever have to worry about that. And it is really, I grew up very poor in Jamaica, pit toilet and everything. And so to be able to...
Outside toilets. Latrines is what they call it. Latrine is what they call it in America. I have to make it... Latrines is what they call it in America, right? Grew up... Yes, ma'am. We know what the latrines look like in Jamaica. Yes.
So it's just, it's amazing. We travel. I can, I go into the lounges, can travel first class, and just, college tuition and things are set. I don't have to worry about those things. So my thing that I'm focusing on now is growing my business because, and another thing too, you have to have policies and procedures that's in place. You have to actually, I'll give you guys an example. We have, contracts. So you have to invest in things. So you have to have, we have the client contract, we have the employee contract, we have a good back office system. You have to invest in these things. So that little money I got from corporate America, I invested it in the business so that, we have the phone answering service, we have everything. So even when we were tiny, nobody knew we were tiny. Nobody knew we only had 2 clients. Now we have almost 100 clients, but when you just had 2, nobody knew that because you set up your back office in a way that people, they don't feel like they're calling a mom and pop shop. That is very, very important, especially in our business. Again, building the trust and the security. And guys, you also need to make sure that when you do things for people, they write reviews for you. That is important, important, because how is somebody going to know how good you are if somebody's not reviewing what you do? So make sure you have people write reviews for you, and always get, customer feedback, good or bad. Because one of the things that I always say to my staff in here is, a measure of a good business is when things are going bad. When a caregiver misses a shift, how quickly can we get somebody else there? Things like that. So that's why we have procedures in place that we can, if something goes wrong, we can pivot quickly and fix things. Because in no business, things are going to go right 100% of the time. You should always plan that things are going to go wrong.
Right.
So... But
that's amazing. Yeah. That's amazing. That's awesome. That's awesome. Are you inspired? Because I know Every time I talk to this woman, I get super extra inspired. If I can be more inspired. But you are absolutely right. And those are some of the key pieces. And there's so many individuals out there who are attempting to go on the journey that you've been on, right?
Yes.
And it's still growing, right?
Yes.
Because I know when I talk to you, the fire is always there and it's never enough, right? And I don't mean that negatively. There's always another bar set for you to keep rising and raising the bar, right? And there's so many people out there who want to do this and they don't know how, Winsome. They really don't know how. And individuals like yourself or myself who've been through the C-suites, right? And have started businesses and sat in that entrepreneurial space. We understand what it takes to really elevate a business. Exactly. And like you said, I love that you say even when it's 2 clients you have, nobody should know. Nobody should know. And there's a way for you to do that. I want to tell you there's a way for you to do that. So you want to make sure that you are presenting in the best way that will reflect the quality of the organization or the company or whatever you're trying to build.
Exactly.
And people think that it is by accident. Mm-hmm. No, you have to be intentional. Of course. You have to be strategic. Exactly. About the things that you do. So that's just so amazing. That's just so awesome. I am just so happy to sit here and talk. I could have stories for days with Winsome. We might have to do a part 2. Probably. We might have to do a part 2, right? Definitely. Kind of talk through just some of her specific strategies that might be able to help you. But I tell you what, tell the folks, what if you've given us so many nuggets and words of wisdom. I don't know if you have any more. So what else could you share with?
One of the things that is really important is if you don't know, find people to help you. Mm-hmm. As I mentioned earlier, when I was starting the business, I needed to have policies and procedures sent to the state of Maryland. And I worked with a consulting company to do that for me because, again, I wasn't a nurse. My sister is a nurse, but there's more to it than her part of it. I think there's 10 different books that sits over there in policy and procedures that needed to get written. So don't ever be afraid to reach out to people to help you. You can't do everything yourself. That's impossible. Like with me, I have a staff in here in the office that works on scheduling, that works on operational things, and I do a lot of other things like payroll and all of those things, and everything to do with my money I keep right in front of me.
That's the Winsome way. Listen, that's good. I was at a workshop the other day and somebody it's the ism, right? So that's the Winsome ism. Exactly. Right? It don't have to be your ism, but it's the Winsome ism.
Anything to do with my money is right in front of me.
Real talk.
So, but everything else, and again, because that is my expertise. Yes. If it wasn't my expertise, I would have people help me with it. But that's why I went to school. So, and I'm a terrible writer, and I have all these fancy lawyers that go through contracts and do all of this stuff for me. But you have to surround yourself with people that can help you get the business from point A to point B, and never be afraid to spend on that, because that is incredibly important. You have to invest in your business so that your business can grow.
Should I just drop the mic right there? I can wait. Is this a mic? Drop the mic. I'm gonna drop the mic, right? Listen, very important, right? Very important. Winsome mentioned the fact that while we all would like to think that we can do all things and do it well, we can't. And in organizations, a lot of time, especially as young entrepreneurs or individuals just starting out, and especially now, Winsome, with what's going on in the world with the layoffs, I feel like we're going back through another COVID season, And in my last podcast, I talked about just some of those things, but we can do this. Like, we can do this. You've pivoted before, you've done this before, you've come back from nothing before. We've all had situations in our lives where we've had to take a U-turn or see sometimes and head the other way. But what we do, we commit to making the best out of all of those situations, and not just the best. We come into excellence in everything that we do. You have to embrace that. At Unorthodox Leadership, that's what we help you do. We help you to formalize some of those things. So you can look like you have 100 clients when it's only 2 you have, right? Because while Winsome is a trained financial expert, she had other areas that she had to work on. And that's the same thing with many of us. I went through the same thing, right? Where you had to pull people in who had expertise. Surround yourself. And it does not have to be full-time people.
Exactly.
And that's another misconception. People think that when they start a business or they're launching out or whatever they're doing, and it's not only in entrepreneurship, by the way. We have all these organizations right now losing funding, non-profits especially. If you had a DEI dollar on your bucket, you know what's happening to that right now, right?
Exactly.
And a lot of organizations are downsizing, or they don't have the resources. Budgets are being cut. Funding is being removed. So now, instead of operating with full-time staff, they have to be thinking about how do I cover the work that needs to get done when I don't have the people in place to do it. There's so many ways you can do that. You can work with organizations, you can work with, agencies to get the work done, right?
Exactly.
And that's what I would like to bring to you. So don't forget that. I have to do my little plug while I'm at
course.
You open the door, so I had to jump in there. You open the door, so I had to jump in it. But yes, that's exactly what you have to do, especially in an environment like this one.
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
Things are rough out there. And people are trying to make ends meet, and they're trying to stretch a dollar even further than they need to. So instead of hiring full-time staff, you hire part-time people or fractional people and consultants to help you work on the organizational development. Because did you hear all the organizational development? Did you hear that? Did you hear organizational development at its finest? At its finest. You don't have to be a Fortune 500 company, even though she's going to be there soon. Right?
Of course.
You don't have to be a Fortune 500 company to operate like a Fortune 500 company, right?
Exactly.
That's the mentality you have to take. So it's been awesome talking to Winsome. Like I said, I could keep going on and on, but I want her to close out with one last thing, because one of the conversations that we had before, she heard my last podcast about taking care of yourself as the leader. And you can tell that this lady is always working, and she called me and said, I needed to be reminded. Tell the folks about how you take time for yourself a little bit. I know you had talked earlier about because while you have the resources to do so, it is also important for you to be intentional in doing so, right? You can't go anywhere you want, take the time off. And sometimes, you know what, it's not in the stuff, Winsome, it's a mindset. Because you can't lie down in your bed and close the door and say, nobody not bothering me tonight. And you've had a moment for yourself. So tell us how you disconnect, take time for yourself, and we'll close out on that.
So one of the things I have been intentionally doing this year is going to the gym. So, and FYI, the gym is just one stoplight from my office. So make it easy. I made it easy for myself. So it's one stoplight away, and I'm very intentional about meeting my trainer on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and the other days I'm very intentional about going to my workout classes, because that is how I unwind. I get to de-stress. Nobody's calling me. Nobody needs me for at least for that hour. So that I have really been working on that, because again, you can't pour from an empty cup. So I need to continue, and I get some great ideas actually. And sometimes I go running, or my version of running.
But you're running.
My version of running.
Don't let her tell you that, ladies and gentlemen. She actually does run a lot. It's one of her hobbies. It's very good. It's her vice.
Yes.
I tell people all the time, mine is dancing. If you know me, you know I'm going to dance off some stress and some steam. But running, so don't let her underestimate.
Running is really good. It's for me. It's also like it's me against me, and nobody's stronger than me. So I am very much about myself and just being intentional. Can I
drop the mic on that? Wait, say that one more time. It's me against me.
Yes.
Nobody against me.
Exactly.
It's just me against me. That's another drop the mic moment.
So I love to be outside too as well, but it just gets the brain pumping, because I'm conquering the world. So just you always have to think about that. So that's it. That's what I do.
Awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Miss Winsome, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. And by the way, I don't know about you, but because this is a journey we all will go on. We have a need for us to think about how we care for elders or ourselves, right? I want you to remember, lean on D.
Yes, when you need somebody to lean on,
is here.
Lean on D.
Lean on D is here. And I think you can also hear the passion in her words and how she runs her company. And I'm sure you can tell from this conversation that that same passion goes to caring for your loved ones or caring for you, right? So while we're here to just talk about, the leadership space and the work you do and how to be resilient and bounce back as a leader, how to pivot when things don't go. That's my favorite story because everybody has one of those in Winsome. It don't matter how small or how large it is. We all have one of those stories. So, ladies and gentlemen, you know that when the door closes, another one's going to open. But sometimes you've got to be the one to open it, right? You've got to be the one to go open that door or that window for yourself. And if you need somebody to help you figure out how to do that, or if you're in the midst of it, if you're an organization, nonprofit, education, and you're struggling with just how to stretch the dollar, how to build organizations that are still high functioning, effective, and really focused on their mission without being so bogged down by the operational pieces and how to really get it done, please reach out to us, www.unorthodoxleadership.org. And with that said, I am Dr. Shernette Grant. I'm so delighted you took the time out to join me. And again, remember, go lead boldly, and there is only you
against you.
Have a great rest of your day. Ciao.
Bye.